Coming up on Theater Talk.
The one song that David Merrick hated, I mean would growl when he came backstage, was a song called Hello, Dolly.
Oh, David Merrick hated the title song,
He
really?
hated it.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
So, Michael, it is a monumental occasion on Broadway right now. We are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Hello, Dolly.
Right, one of the great musicals of all time, which I think held the record for the most number of Tony Awards until the producers came along and won 12, and I think Dolly had 10 or 11. But we want to talk about Hello, Dolly, its history, the original production, with some people who have been involved in it for many, many years. Please welcome to Theater Talk tonight one of my great friends here in the New York Theater, the wonderful Sondra Lee, who was the original Minnie Fay in the 1964 production of Hello, Dolly. Am I correct there?
That's true.
You were there.
Yes.
Joining us also is the great Marge Champion, who is married to Gower Champion, the director and choreographer of Hello, Dolly. And Marge, you worked as Gower's associate and assistant on the original.
I did indeed. Not only as a partner when we were dancing and doing movies of our own and stuff like that.
Yes, Marge was quite the star
Absolutely.
with Gower Champion.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about you, Marge, that even before you were a dancing star, you were the...
I was the live action model.
Yes.
Snow White.
It was
when I was
rotoscoped.
when I was 14.
And also we have a third guest here, the original Dolly Levi, Mr. Roy Reams. I was waiting to spring that one on you.
I'll do it.
Actually, that was Carol Chetty, but Leroy's been associated with Jerry Herman musicals for a long time, and you were Cornelius Hackl in a 1978 revival with Carol.
The first revival, yes.
Right, right.
And then I directed the last revival, which was '94.
That's right. So let me ask you guys, this show endures. I mean, I've seen it 5 or 6 or 7 times. It's on the road right now with Sally Struthers. What is the reason that Hello, Dolly always works and will always work?
It's the book.
You think so, yeah?
It's the Thornton Wilder story that works.
It is.
And Mike adapted it beautifully.
Mike Stewart.
Jerry wrote wonderful, wonderful songs, so the piece fits together so well as a musical, because the backbone and the most underappreciated part is always the book.
Right.
And this has a very strong book. That's why it's preserved. And also, it had brilliant, brilliant staging by Gower Champion. I think his best.
When it's a revive, do they always use Gower's classic staging, the great waiter gallop and all that stuff?
No. And
should.
I'm pretty sure it was before the days when I think that was Jerry Robbins who finally they had to do his choreography.
Yeah, you can't do Fiddler on the Roof without
Yes.
Jerry Robbins.
Also,
Yes.
Michael, I think that one of the ingredients of this particular show, having been in it originally, is that Gower had a very unique way of casting things. I mean, in other words, we were unlikely, the 4 of us. I mean, we're talking about Eileen Brennan.
Eileen Brennan, right?
Yes, we're talking about
Charles Nelson Riley.
Charles
as the
Nelson
man,
Riley.
The heartthrob.
Because when he and David Merrick decided that it was Carol Channing who was going to be in it, he had different people for different people that he thought might be, to back them up. But he knew he needed people who were larger than life.
Right, to match Carol.
To match Carol, and it worked.
We should also remember a wonderful character actor who may have been forgotten, David Burns, right? Who,
oh,
Yes.
great
Oh, well.
David Burns.
wonderful fellow.
Wasn't Charles Nelson Riley a wonderful person?
Charlie
Oh,
was
he
great.
was.
He's one of the funniest people in the world.
Funny, funny, funny.
In a way, we were all showstoppers, and we were really organized to work with each other in a very ensemble way in terms of the play itself.
Well, the four of you really made that opening of the second act.
Yes.
Yes.
It made it.
And what was that song?
What's that song?
Elegance.
Elegance.
Oh, it's one of my,
If you
my
ain't
favorite
got
songs.
elegance,
It's got
yeah.
and said Minnie Fay has pedigree. That's right. All right, so take us back to this original production, Sondra and Marge. What shape was the show in before you got into rehearsals? I mean, was Jerry's score really pretty much all there? Was the book title? Was there a lot of work that Gower had to do to shape the show?
Except for the eating of all that stuff, and that in the second act, which he spent too much time on, he had to change almost everything in Detroit.
Really?
Those changes were being done in Detroit, but also a horrendous thing happened in
Yes.
this country.
Yes.
It was the death of the president.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were out of town in '63.
Yes.
We were in Detroit at that time.
Yes.
And it was
And we were going,
horrendous.
we were going to Washington
right.
right after. We had a month in Detroit, and he had to fix it, and he kept bringing other people, other musicians, composers, up to. David Merrick kept bringing people up to scare Jerry Herman out.
Charles
He was only 26 years old.
Right. And the story goes when someone suggested Jerry to David Merrick, Jerry had written Milk and Honey.
Yes.
And
that
David
was the
Merrick-
only show.
That's right. And David Merrick said, no, he can only write ethnic music.
No, Jewish operettas.
Jewish operettas. But
Okay, the one song that David Merrick hated, I mean would growl when he came backstage, was a song called Hello, Dolly.
David Merrick hated the title song,
He
really?
hated it.
Why?
He hated it. He
As
said,
did Hal
Gotta
Prince.
change that.
No, Hal
Was the original director and wanted it cut before he said he would do the show.
Why? Why did they dislike this?
And
Jerry's biggest...
It was Jerry Robbins. And he said,
Hal Prince
and
says
I don't like this show, and the first thing I would cut is that song Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
And Gower said, when he heard the song, he said it made him think of the passerelle, where he could bring her out into the audience.
Oh.
And when she spoke to Ephraim, yes, she could be on that.
The runway.
The runway.
The
on the
passerelle.
lip.
But that's so interesting
So we
that
did,
three
yeah.
different directors, two think, I can't work with the song, and the third comes up with one of the most brilliantly staged numbers of all
I think
time.
the best staged musical number in the history of the theater.
Yeah.
Hello, Dolly is perfect. Every single bit of it is perfect.
Yeah, well, I remember Jerry telling me years ago when he wrote the song as an audition piece for David, because he begged David, give me a chance, and he went home to his apartment in the Village, and he knocked off 4 or 5 songs.
True.
One of them was Hello, Dolly, and all of the waiters' names were originally, and some of them still in there, were all of his relatives. Manny's a cousin, Harry was an uncle. he would put those songs into the thing. Tell us a little bit about...
Oh, can I tell you just
Yeah, sure, of
something,
course,
a
please,
little
please.
thing about Jerry Herman? And that is when we did the recording, and he burst into tears. I mean, the tears were running down his cheeks. And I thought that was so touching. And I went to him and I said, gosh, that's, it's so wonderful and so inspiring. He said, I burst into tears every orchestra rehearsal. Those songs mean so much.
Were you performing the show, or were you rehearsing the show when Kennedy was shot?
I think we were performing.
We were performing.
Yeah, because I remember
But they
Carol
closed-
being on the phone to the White House as saying, we're all going to keep working, we're all going to keep working. I was astounded.
Wow.
And also another thing was
Well, it
there was
gave
a
us-
radio
it-
backstage. And I remember Eileen with the pink curlers in her hair, and all of us hovering over this little radio like it was a radiator or a fireplace for more news.
And then having to go on stage and do
Yeah.
your scene and then come back to
Yes.
listen to the
Yeah.
radio.
No, we shut down for 2 days.
But of course,
Well,
the
of course,
whole
everything-
assassination would have gone on for 4.
Everything was shut down
funeral
for
and all
2
that.
days.
Yes.
And very interesting things happened during the
we
course of
we were in Detroit still.
Yeah.
And before the parade passes by, went in later too. That went in much later, and you all had to, or everybody had to wear mock-up costumes because the costumes weren't ready.
Yeah.
They weren't ready until we got to New York.
And Charles Strauss came up with that idea
Right.
for Parade, but Jerry wrote the song.
Yeah, here's the question.
Yes.
There's always been these rumors that
clearing it
Jerry
up.
didn't write the entire score to Hello, Dolly, that Charlie Strauss wrote some of it. Is that not
That
true?
is not true.
Jerry wrote
I
every note?
interviewed both of them because at one time I was going to write a book about this, and they both told exactly the same stories. He had an idea and he encouraged Jerry,
Yes.
but he did not write any of the songs.
That's
Wasn't there-
fascinating.
But there was another composer who was brought in, and he's the one who did
Bob
Carnival.
Merrill.
Bob Merrill.
Bob
Yes.
Yes.
Which is
I mean, he kept
Elegance.
bringing.
Oh, he wrote Elegance?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Bob Merrill wrote Ellie. Oh, that's interesting.
And I think part of Motherhood.
Right. But wasn't that
Somebody wrote both those. Yeah, I do.
wasn't that David Merrick's way of working though? I mean, he would bring
Yes.
he would
Yeah.
bring the competition up
Intimidate
to,
you.
Yeah.
to terrify. you.
Absolutely. He did
terrified
it on
them.
42nd Street too. I mean, he's famous for that. But an interesting story now, then they will clear it up because they were there, I wasn't. Because when the show was in Detroit and it was in trouble and it didn't get good reviews and David Merrick was going to close the show. And Shirley Eder, who wrote for the Detroit Free Press, had a friend who was coming to review for Variety, and she said, "You're going to give this show a good review because my friend Carol Channing is in it." And he did.
Yeah.
And Gower took that review when David was going to close the show, went to L.A., got backing, and was going to buy the show from David. And came back and said, "I'll buy the show. It's going to continue." And David said, "Okay, I'll stick it out."
Is that true?
remember
Is that true, Marge? Because
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's fascinating.
Can I say something? I mean, I as a performer, as an actor, whether it's a play or whether it's a musical or a ballet, I don't know where these people get all these stories. Simply because when you're there, all you want to do is, break your butt and do it the best you can. And all of the gossip and all the stuff that goes on, I never knew. Until
Leroy's a collector of that.
But see, Michael, you've got that power.
That's
You
true.
think of that.
Where do you
Shirley
get
Eder-
them, Michael?
You get them from the Leroy Reamses of today, who hear a great story. They
know,
can't
but
wait to tell everybody.
none of those stories, though, like,
I'm curious, Marge. Can you describe for me the relationship that David Merrick and Gower Champion had? Because they worked together on some very successful shows, but I know that there must have been tension between the two of them.
There was a lot of tension. He left when he brought Bob Merrill up. He left and he said to the stage manager, "When Mr. Mustache leaves here, give me a call and I'll come back." And he went to another city
So Gower called David Mr. Mustache.
at that time. Later on, and that is a very sad thing, during was it 42nd Street.
Yes.
That's when he decided that the only way to treat David was to let him in, because he never let him into rehearsal.
Yeah, and it was in the contract with 42nd Street. David was not allowed to come in until the show had opened to audiences. Then he could come in. But Gower was the one who was totally in charge. And he worked very privately and very quietly. And I think he is one of the most brilliant people in the theater. And that time with 42nd Street, working with him, was probably the highlight of my life. To watch him create and see things that would come out of his mind that were so clear. I watched him stage
Yeah, but can I
things
just
right off the top of his head with us doing it, and it was brilliant.
And what I think was one of the outstanding things about working with Gower, because we didn't come from the same dance background. I came from Jerry. But what he
Jerry
allowed
Robbins.
us with that script was to contribute. And in an odd way, if you get an idea, you went to Gower and you said, I think, and maybe if I go into the closet and then just come back. And then it dawns on me, he said, do it.
So you couldn't do that with Jerry Robbins?
Not quite the same.
No.
No,
Gower was a
Robbins-
little more open to the ideas from the.
Yeah, he was. Well, actually, he honored the book, and as an actor, you felt free to discuss that with your director. I wouldn't argue with him dance-wise, if that's what he wanted, that's what he got. But when it came to things within the scenes, he allowed us our own. Our own mind,
Contribution.
our own creativity.
Yeah.
They say that Robbins could be you know, really mean and cruel and scary. And
He could be.
yeah, and you know, and Fosse was certainly had his demons, and Michael Bennett could manipulate psychologically the people with him. How did Gower treat his cast?
With respect.
With respect.
He was not an intimidating man. He was
Not at all.
prone to
No.
yelling.
Because what happened when, I mean, now I'm talking about 42nd Street, I can't talk about Hello Dolly, but
Yeah.
at 42nd Street, we came in
He
2
was
weeks
very
before
ill.
the company came in, and we worked with Wanda Richard, myself, and the 2 dance assistants worked with them privately. And he was very open to, we brought our sense of style into it, and We're in the Money was all my tapping.
Yeah.
He
Great.
used that because he didn't tap dance.
Yeah.
Now, Marge just
So
said
he
he
just developed and said, you go here, you go there, and we did it. And it was wonderful, and it was instant. You just win him because he was brilliant.
Marge just made the point that Gower was very ill when you were working with him also.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, but you know what? I was in Spoleto. This is about Gower. I was in Spoleto doing something else, and the phone rang, and it was Gower Champion, who said, I have this play I'd like you to do. I said, okay. And so he sent me that. I read it, and I called him back
This was Hello Dolly, he said.
in Hello Dolly. And I said, I can't find it. And he said, the script? I said, no, the part. And he said, that's why I called.
Oh, because he knew that you could help create.
Yes, but he let us all really do what we did, and I think that was part of his genius with the book.
Now, Marge, when you helped Gower Champion create his career, when you were the television stars, Marge and Gower Champion, and movie stars, did he allow you equal creativity, or was he dictatorial to you, his wife? His
He
then
couldn't
wife?
have done it without her, honey.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, I was a well-trained ballet dancer because my father was a ballet master, and I could suggest things that he wouldn't have thought of. You know, he actually, we rehearsed for a long time with each act that we did, not just at the studio. And he also worked with Bob Fosse in one of the films.
Yes, I remember
Give a
that.
Girl a Break. And the two of them were always vying for, they were always competing. And they really created quite a funny number in that show, in that movie.
When they were in the park.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, two
Yeah, but
geniuses
that's-
going up
I have
against
to
each
add
other.
a story to that only because it was the night that the show opened, and of course Gower had died that afternoon.
This is
42nd
42nd Street.
Yeah, so when I walked into the opening night party at 42nd Street, the first person I saw was Bob Fosse, who came up to me and said, quote, "That son of a bitch, I filmed my death, and he had to do me one better by doing it on the opening day," which was very funny. And I said, you know, Gower is laughing from up there, Bob. It was a great response.
We can't talk about Hello Dolly without talking about Carol Channing, who I know was a great friend of yours, and you toured with her in '78. Did she ever feel a prisoner of this role, or did she just love doing it again
No.
and again and again?
She loved every single minute of it.
Yes.
She was like a racehorse in the stall waiting for the bell to ring every single night. She, as I said, 110%. Carol can't wait to get out on stage and to go right to the audience. She loved the role of
She
Dolly.
never wanted to have her dressing room fixed up because she said she always wanted to get out on the stage.
Oh, she didn't want to lounge around.
She
in a
didn't
fancy
want to
dressing
lounge
room.
around and even between acts. She just wanted to get out on the
Did she ever say that, you know, I wish that I'd done more roles in the musical theater? I wish I'd done other musicals rather
Oh,
than...
I'm sure she did, but I think the fact that she created two iconic roles, Lorelei Lee
Yeah.
and Hello Dolly, most people in the theater never have that experience. They do a lot of shows, but never to have these huge wonderful roles. I mean, I want to play Hello Dolly. Don't you want to play Hello Dolly?
Yes, of
It's one of the best parts ever written.
I want to wear one of those
I
big
want to do
head-
it.
I want to wear those big
I'm
headdresses.
serious.
One time, I don't remember exactly whether it was a nighttime or a party or whatever, but Mr. Merrick, I'd never called him David, Mr. Merrick said, and that Hello Dolly with everybody in red and her coming in red, what the hell is that? And I said, It's a monument to menopause.
Did David have a response to that?
He laughed. It was the only time I ever heard David Merrick laugh.
I had to tell a story on Marge because so many people, you know, they always want to redo Dolly. They always want to do this. And of course they say, well, when we did our version, she came down the staircase in a green dress. And Marge says, did it make the show better?
That's true. All right, well, it's the 50th anniversary of Hello, Dolly. I do believe that Jimmy Niederlander still has the rights, and he keeps talking to me about doing a full-fledged Broadway revival with Queen Latifah's a name that I hear, Bette Midler's a name that swirls
They want to
around.
recreate it, Michael, and I think they need to rediscover it more than recreate it, because the show is there and the work that Gower Champion did in it. I mean, everything is always adjusted to the people doing it. The reason why that show ran for so long with so many different women doing it, because it became a different show with each woman. But the staging of that show is perfection. They couldn't do it in the movie with millions of dollars any better. The Waiter's Gallop, which Gower Champion did, was so brilliant. Michael Kidd with millions of dollars and all sorts of camera tricks couldn't make the number better than it was done on stage. And I'm telling you, I've seen many, many productions, but that original concept is perfect.
I've never seen another production.
Only the original.
I can't bring myself
Wow.
to see almost anything I've ever been in.
But Sondra, if Leroy plays Dolly Levi, you'll go to see that one.
Actually, I would go to it because he's truer and more dedicated to the reality of what it was and what it should be.
He did a better, I always say, he did a better second time.
Revival.
A revival.
Right.
Better than anything. I mean, he even got Carol to be down and dirty in
So Long Dearie.
So Long Dearie.
I heard about it. Marge told me.
Well, actually,
how'd you get Carol to be down and dirty?
well, what happened with that revival, of course, you know, Carol was so married to what she did, because I wanted her to rediscover things. And I said, you know, Carol, we have to think that really Dolly was a women's libber. She, you know, managed to make a living out of, you know, imitating things her husband did just to survive. And so when she does So Long Dearie, she says to him, okay, you say you don't want me, I'm telling you I don't want you. I'm out of here, but what I got is so good, but you can't have it, so wave your little hand. So it became a whole other thing going on.
She must have loved
And
that.
she actually did more choreography in that, and she did all the other choreography, so she did more choreography in the revival than she did originally, and she was 76 then.
All right, well, it's the 50th anniversary of Hello, Dolly. Marge Champion, who was there in the original, helping her husband create a masterpiece. Sondra Lee, Minnie Fay, a character that apparently didn't exist until Gower thought to bring you on.
Yes.
And Leroy, who directed apparently the best revival since Gower's of Hello, Dolly.
Thank you for saying that.
And was Cornelius Hackl.
Yes.
It said, I think
One of my favorite roles.
I love that role. Would you mind?
play
Is
with
there
you.
is there a little song you can give us to go out from Hello, Dolly? Is there a little sing along that we all know from Hello, Dolly to say goodbye?
Well, the title song, yeah? 5, 6, 7. Hello, Dolly. Well, hello, Dolly. It's so nice to have you back where you belong.
Goodbye, Dolly. Charming, thank you.
There was a song from Hello, Dolly that was cut when the show was out of town. So we're going to do it for you now, because you see, one day, Horace Vandergelder found a penny. I put a penny in my pocket, and in a little time, that penny in my pocket had grown into a dime. And in a little longer, a quarter jingled out. I put that quarter in a teapot, and I waited till the teapot had $1 in the spout. I put that $1 in my mattress and had some pleasant dreams, till suddenly my mattress was bursting at the seams. And that's how I acquired a Gramercy address. That little penny is the secret, yes. That penny is the secret of my success. I had a penny in my pocket and not another sou. And with my only shirt tail, I shined a rich man's shoe. He tossed me down a nickel admiring my skill. I gave that nickel to a blind man, and that blind man left me all his meager savings in his will. En route to work next morning, I helped a lady cross. That lady was, you guessed it, the mother of the boss. The boss said, "You're promoted. I need you by my side." And then I met the boss's daughter, and I wed the boss's daughter, and quite suddenly she died. I bought myself an acre, a silo, and a steed. Old Yonkers started buying grain and hay and feed. And now I've $500,000, but proudly I confess that in my pocket is that penny, yes, that shiny little penny. It's that penny that's the secret of my success.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, plus public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency, and the Theater Development Fund's Technical Accessibility Program, which helps provide closed captioning.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.